I'm honestly looking forward to being done with talking about this case at the same time that I'm interested in explaining it, because it's such a tough case to look at because of the victim, okay? So we're going to be talking about a 12-year-old boy, Sean Daugherty.
Okay.
Have you heard about Sean at all?
A little bit. I'm
So-
not super familiar.
So, when I heard this case, it literally blew my mind. I don't understand where things went wrong here, okay? And I personally am led to believe that there's a lot of ego going on here between police and the parents, and it's a real shame because it's ultimately about a 12-year-old boy, you know?
Yeah.
That, in my opinion, had some very questionable, shady things done. All right, so what am I talking about? If you guys don't know, okay? So Sean Daugherty was, by all accounts, a really good kid. You know, I wasn't one of those good kids. I was a troublemaker. I was like Curious George. If there was something that I wanted to figure out, regardless of what the consequences were, I was going to go figure it out, you know? Well, he was the opposite of that. From everything that I've read and everything that I've seen, he cared about learning. He went to school, and all the teachers loved him. He did phenomenal schoolwork. He was a really, really good kid and was really close to his family. He was one of those kids that actually enjoyed family time at his house with his mom, his sister, his stepdad, who all lived in this house. And some of the things he enjoyed doing were like active, good things like swimming. The kid literally went out of his way to buy like hundreds of dollars worth of books to continue his learning, you know? So, like, he was heavily invested in himself. When I look at this, immediately I think this looks like a situation where the parents were doing a really good job raising this kid, you know? And it's a real shame what happened. So the rundown here, okay? So Sean was going to school that day on, it was April 13th. I'm sorry, it was Thursday, April 14th, okay? And he had gone to school that day. His mom and grandma, who were at the house, realized the grandma had a doctor's appointment. So while Sean's at school, they're trying to figure out how they're going to make this work. His mom felt like he needed to go with his grandma to the doctor appointment, so they decided to let Sean, for the first time, watch his little brother, his 2-year-old brother. Sean's 12 years old. I get it, you know.
Makes sense, yeah.
If you're only going to be gone for a short time, like, I get it. Now, I feel horrible because that's probably a decision his mom gets kept up at night with for the rest of her life, unfortunately. But so he gets home, he finds out he's going to be watching his brother, okay? The mom says that he's really happy about it, and the mom's name's Maria. The sister's name is Maria. The mom's name is Ramona.
Okay.
So Ramona says that he was super excited about watching his brother. She left him a basic outline of what to do. Some of the things that Sean did in a normal day was get home and do his homework before anything else. After homework, he would do his chores sometime in between homework and playing. He got his chores done every day, like, didn't even have to be asked, like clockwork, okay? So his mom suggested that he do his homework, get his chores done. Once his brother wakes up, play with him, be active with him, watch a movie with him, keep him busy, do something together, right? And that she let him know that they're only going to be gone for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, okay? Well, they leave and take off, and everything Seems good. So based on the evidence at the scene, it looks like Sean did his homework. He started to take out the trash. He got all the trash from the house, put it in 2 bags, and set it up by the door. He was making his snack, and he was making his snack, and from that point on, we don't know what else he did. Where it picks up from there, though, is Maria, like I was saying earlier, the sister, came home and... Oh, I'm sorry. That's where I was missing. I drew a blank here. Unscripted. So between getting the trash, doing the homework, pulling out his snack, he actually talked to his mom in between that time.
Okay.
And he was... It's kind of funny. He was going to the bathroom, taking a dump, whatever, and talking to his mom on the phone at the same time. And she had mentioned that everything sounded completely normal. Everything sounded good. She suggested when he's done with that, finish up his chores and then hang out with his brother, wake him up so he's not sleeping too long, that type of thing. Hung up. Everything was good. And the next situation we have is his sister coming home, who was knocking on the door. The door wasn't unlocked. She couldn't get in. She calls her mom and says, hey, he's not answering the door. She says, well, he's probably playing video games upstairs or watching a movie downstairs, like I suggested to him. So just go around back. I'm sure the back's unlocked. She goes around back and sees a body hanging from their swing set, and I'll have a picture up here for them. It's just a normal wood swing set that has a slide and like a cover, and she stops, and she said that it took a second to realize like what that was. You walk into a backyard that you're at, tons of times, and you're not expecting to see that, and she sees that, and it probably took a second for
it to register,
to
take it in,
filter in her head. So she then goes up closer to like verify who it is or what it is or whatever, realizes it's Sean, runs over to him, holds him up like this, to clear airway, and she slips the rope that was around his neck off of him.
So how old was the sister? So she's not a little sister. She's an older sister.
She's an older sister. Yep, she is an adult, I believe. I didn't write that down on here, so I don't know if you want to look it up.
Yeah.
But she's older, okay? She has her own life. I believe she was going to college already, but we'll look that up. So what's important here is she, with one hand, holds him up and slips the rope off of his neck. And why that's important is because that means it's loose enough, you guys, to where she didn't have to loosen anything off of him, okay? She was able to hold him and pull it off. So we have a very loose knot on Sean. She calls 911. I'm sorry, let me back up just a little bit. When she realizes it's him, she screams, okay? And when she screams, somebody that was mowing a lawn next door, which was a landscaper, looks over and witnesses what's going on.
Yeah.
Does it show how old she is?
No, I honestly don't see anything about the sister at all.
Okay,
Like,
it's not that big of a deal. Yeah. I will have posted it on the screen once I find it anyways. So she calls 911, and 911 gets there, and he had already been taken down. They instruct her to do CPR on him, and she takes the bag that was on his head off, okay? And they start like identifying more of the weird situation. So ultimately they end up taking him to the hospital where he isn't recovered. But the weird situation of him hanging is, and trigger warning, so he was hanging, like I said, by a large knot in what seemed like a shoestring from his neck, okay? He had a bag, a black bag over the top of his head, and then he had a belt on around his stomach, holding his arms to his side like this, okay?
Okay, so he couldn't have put himself in that position.
Also, that swing set, because he was 12 years old, how long the string was, his feet actually touched the ground, okay? And it was right next to a swing where, if you were in a situation like that, you would think, you would be able to grab things, stand up, things like that, okay?
Yeah.
Well, what was interesting that they noted was the paramedics could not get the belt off. It was so tight. They were having a hard time getting it off. Now, there's nothing that says exactly how long he was hanging there, you guys, but could blood have started pooling? Maybe. I don't know. But
well,
it
I'm
is
thinking
a
more
very...
of like bloating, but bloating doesn't happen until after
remember,
rigor mortis.
Remember,
right?
We're talking minutes, not even an hour. So, like, it
couldn't have been that long for him to start bloating.
Honestly, if you look at the time frame from the time he called his mom, from the time she got there, you're talking this might have been able to happen in like 45 minutes at most, you guys, okay? So he's taken to the hospital, like I said, and pronounced dead, unfortunately. The family goes there, and they get to visit him one last time, and they're visiting him in the room and everything. And the mom is holding his hand, and realizes there's some blood on his fingers, which she thought was weird. So it made her curious and want to look more at him. And she pulls up the sheet and realizes, what the heck, man? He's in my husband's clothes. Fully clothed in her husband's clothes. During the chaos of that and everything that was going on, that was missed, that it wasn't his clothing that was on him. So super strange, right? Well, the family goes back home and everything and waits for the ruling of what caused it. And now I don't know when they decided it was a self-deletion, but ultimately that's what was decided here, was that it was a self-deletion, and by the sheriff's department of that area. Yeah. Now, going to the parents' case, and why the sheriffs ruled it a self-deletion was that they believed that he could have been bullied at school, that he had dealt with depression, okay. That they think that it was self-inflicted. Now, okay, got it.
Seem possible.
This is what the sheriff... It doesn't seem possible. It doesn't. It drives me crazy. So, but this is what the sheriffs believe, and they have the pictures, they have the autopsy pictures. I mean, they saw everything everybody else knows and the family knows, that you have a 12-year-old boy in his dad's clothes from head to toe, with a belt so tight around his waist that they could barely get it off themselves, with a bag over his head and a knot, a shoelace from the swing set, okay? Very weird scene, you guys. That's super eerie just thinking about it.
And a bag over his head.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the parents go home, right? And over the next couple weeks, the parents start noticing things, right? And they were allowed to go back in their home, which was wild. But they started noticing things. And I'll just give...
They considered it deletion, so self-deletion. So... I mean, it makes sense why they could go back, but it just doesn't seem possible for it to be that. That feels like corrupt.
It doesn't. It doesn't seem possible. It seemed okay. And one thing to note too is it's a 12-year-old boy, you guys. Is a 12-year-old boy, does he have the brain capability to not only be so depressed, but realize, hey, it's human nature that we automatically try and save ourselves. So I need to make sure that I can't grab something to change my mind. Do you think a 12-year-old's going to think that? I don't.
No.
I don't. I don't at all.
And he was a really, really good kid.
He was a very good kid. Okay, so the parents get back and they start noticing things. One, his homework was completed. Okay, remember, if we're talking about self-deletion here,
Why would you do your homework?
why would you do your homework?
Yeah.
His job was half done. The trash had been gathered in the house and sitting by the door, okay, which was really weird. One of his favorite snacks was out on the counter and not eaten, okay? So immediately those things, they started thinking, this is weird. Something's not adding up here. So then they start thinking about the situation that they saw, okay, of him hanging there. And after they had found that he was wearing his dad's clothes, and they started thinking, like, where did that head cover come from? And they put it together. They put two and two together. That it wasn't a shoestring, and that wasn't a head cover. It was the helmet bags of his stepdad's helmets for his motorcycle, which had been put in a pile to go to Goodwill in the garage. Both of them, the string and the hood, are helmet bags for helmets, for motorcycles. And they were in the garage. Crazy, right? So what's even crazier is right by the garage door on the inside, there were 2 trash bags laying on the ground. At first glance, they thought that it was him doing his job, putting the trash away, okay? So they took pictures of everything, ended up picking those up. One of them was all torn up, which was kind of weird, but with all the stress and anxiety and everything they're going through, they just didn't put 2 and 2 together. But once they started questioning this case, they started thinking about that. And those trash bags had a string on them, a blue string on them, a blue pull string on them. Mm-hmm. And they have never bought trash bags that had a blue pull string. They only buy one type of trash bag from Costco that has a black pull string. They searched the whole house for this pull string and couldn't find them. Could not find them.
That's super weird. So they came from somewhere else.
And also, if you guys aren't putting that together, that string, with how it was set up, probably isn't what ended him. Okay, it to me, I wonder if it's staged. I'm curious what you guys think, but could that bag have been the cause of that? Okay, you know what I mean? Lack of oxygen, those 2 bags laying out, 2 brothers at home. Now, here's another really weird thing too. So he was wearing the stepfather's clothes. So when they went in their room, they live in the master suite area, I guess you call it, that has a master bathroom, and his underwear were found in between the master bathroom and the master bedroom in the hallway. All the drawers had been pulled out, and it looked like the clothes had been gone through. Strange.
Why would they put him in his dad's clothes, though? Whoever would have done this. That's so weird. Did they ever do an autopsy? Did they ever test him to see if he was sexually
They
essayed?
said they did, and they said that he wasn't assaulted. Now.
So what was the cause of death, according to the autopsy?
That it was self-deletion. That's what the cause was, from lack of oxygen, hanging. So, now, is it possible to self-delete yourself with a loose knot by hanging? Yes, it is, because there's actually 2 types of hangings out there. There's the hanging that crushes your airway, right?
And blood. And blood
That's
flow.
the second one. So the first one is crushes your airway, and you lose oxygen to your body. The other one can be done with a loose knot where it stops the blood flow to your head, which shuts down your head.
Well, then there's
your
three
brain.
types, because then there's the type where they drop you and your neck breaks.
Well, yeah. Yes. I think that falls in line with the one that crushes the air pipe, though, too. So
no, because you have to fall from a certain height.
Yeah. Back in the day, though, what they only did that, they looked at that as a like a mercy. They used to like pull on them to snap their neck to make it quicker. But yeah, that I would consider that a neck breaking, not like a hanging, though. You know what I mean? I just think it could be done by hanging. There's two official types, and it's the one from the blood cut off and then one from the lack of oxygen.
Okay.
Which can happen from that loose knot there. So they start looking around in the backyard, and they also find a giant palm print on the back door of an unknown substance, like a dark, weird color palm print on the door, okay? So the parents are finding all these details, all these things that are standing out, all this potential evidence. And as they're finding it, you guys, they are calling a sheriff out every time. By everything that I've read, it looks like to me the parents did every single thing that they were supposed to, okay? Now, the sheriffs were not listening. They were committed to their cause of death, and they were not willing to go any other way with it, okay? Mm-hmm. Well, from loving parents, okay, that are seeing all these things that are standing out, I'm sure they're frustrated. They have to be frustrated, okay? So they start speaking out. They start speaking out. They start creating social media marketing. They created a Facebook, What Happened to Sean. And I'll be posting this stuff too, because people are still signing these petitions to find out what happened. They're advocating for themselves to get the FBI involved because they no longer trust the sheriff's department, okay?
And where is this again? What town? Arlington, Virginia, right?
Yeah. You made me go way off my spot. Yeah. What's the county, though?
It said York County.
Okay, that's it. Yep, York.
Yep.
So we'll be putting those links in here so you guys know what's going on here. So they also created a change.org account, What Happened to Sean, and people are signing to have the FBI hop on board here. Now, some of the things that the parents have brought up that the sheriffs ended up throwing him under the bus for was the stepfather is in military. He is a career military guy and has been in military his whole life, right? So maybe that could cause someone to target you. And then the mother was starting a new job with the federal government, specifically the Pentagon.
Whoa.
So, you know, that could be another reason. Maybe there was some kind of targeting. That's one of the things that they think, which in my opinion seems logical to me. Like if I was in their shoes, I would wonder those things too. Now, wondering doesn't mean that it's the most likely outcome, but you're doing something wrong if you're not bringing up all information. And that's something we say all the time, because people like to come online and say, oh, how dare you, how disrespectful, I can't believe you're talking about that. And really it should be, no, how dare you for not looking at all the information in any situation, especially when we have victims involved here, because really in any situation the only justice is truth, okay?
Yeah.
And the only way you get truth is by looking at every single piece of evidence. So the parents came out with all this social media, started fighting back, okay? Now, you know what's interesting? When the sister screamed, and the first eyewitness of him hanging there was a landscaper, okay? When I heard that, so that is my number one.
That's sketchy.
That's sketchy. That is so sketchy. And here's why. I'll tell you why I feel weird about that, okay? Is because whether you take the story that he did it himself, or you wonder if somebody could have placed him like that. Somebody was next door with visual of that swing set, and that couldn't have happened without being seen. There's no way that could have happened without somebody seeing something, okay?
Yeah.
Imagine him doing it to himself. He still would have to get the belt to a certain tightness, put this thing over his head, put that, like, that's not possible, okay? But just let's pretend there was some way he could magically do it, okay? All those different factors. And by the way, his glasses were broken and so far away from him, and he was the type of kid that literally couldn't function without his glasses. That's how bad his sight was. His glasses weren't on him, you guys. So he would have had to put the string up, put it around his neck with a single loop, okay, with a bag over his head, with his arms tied down, and still end himself. You know what I mean? It's just not possible. It literally isn't possible for him to do that. It's not possible to get the belt that tight on his own to himself. So,
gosh,
the parents came out with the social media stuff, okay? And the sheriffs gave a response, and I'm going to play it here for everybody.
Recent statements have caused concern in the community that the death of a 12-year-old on April the 14th, 2022 has not been fully investigated by the sheriff's office, and that there may be a killer in our area that poses a threat. Nothing could be further from the truth. It has been the long-standing policy of the York-Poquoson Sheriff's Office to not release information relating to cases, particularly those cases that involve children. We do everything within our power to preserve the privacy of the grieving family. We take these matters very seriously, evaluate all evidence, and consider all possibilities. The York-Poquoson Sheriff's Office is aware of a recent social media site created to provide the public with theories surrounding the death of this 12-year-old. Much of the information being posted to this social media site is opinion, innuendo, and fabrication, which is not consistent with the evidence that was collected by Sheriff's Office investigators during their investigation. Once that evidence was collected, it was submitted to the Department of Forensic Science for evaluation and later to the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. By law, in Virginia, it is the Chief Medical Examiner's responsibility to determine the manner and cause of death which they, the Chief Medical Examiner's Office. In addition, the Sheriff's Office met with the family on multiple occasions and gave them the opportunity to discuss this investigation. Additionally, an offer was made to have a group meeting after the findings of the Chief Medical Examiner's Office that would include the family, members of the York-Poquoson Sheriff's Office, and the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. As of this date, the family has not expressed interest in scheduling the meeting. Instead, they chose to post this video publicly. There were several key points that were made in this video that the Sheriff's Office will address. First, in the video, the mother said, "They have told me a few times that they really don't know how to investigate this kind of murder case because it's really complicated." The implication being we, the York-Poquoson Sheriff's Office. That statement is absolutely not true and was never made to this mother. Our investigators are recognized in the Hampton Roads area as professional, caring, competent major crimes investigators. They have investigated and solved numerous cases that include homicides, suicides. They have several decades of investigative experience within the division. The investigation divisions consist of graduates of the Virginia Forensic Science Academy, which has certified them as crime scene experts. Along with processing the scene and interviewing witnesses and the family, investigators interviewed a significant number of people to include surrounding neighbors, lawn care personnel, school officials, friends of the 12-year-old, and other community members. The results of these initial interviews did not identify any potential suspects. Also during the course of this investigation, the family provided information on individuals they believe may be involved in the case. Their suspicions were based on people that they merely believed to be in the area at the time of the incident. These individuals were all located, interviewed, and ruled out as persons of interest by Sheriff's Office investigators. The evidence collected and documentation shows many discrepancies in the version that was put forth on the family's page. The videos and photos you see on their social media site are not from the actual scene. They have been fabricated. First, the video of the man walking in front of their house is from 1 month after the incident, not the day of the incident. 2, the blood spatter image depicted in the video was not from the scene. However, we went back to the home on May 20th, 2022 at the request of the family. During that visit, the mother pointed out a red stain on the wall in the upstairs area of the home. Investigators photographed that stain on that date. Later, investigators reviewed the photographs that were taken on April the 14th, 2022, the day of the tragedy, and that stain was not present on that wall on April the 14th, 2022. In the mother's video, she states that her 2-year-old child witnessed the events that occurred in the house. During a recorded interview on April the 14th, 2022, between the mother and Sheriff's Office investigators, she stated when she left the house that afternoon to take her mother to an appointment, the child was asleep. When she returned home after the tragedy had been discovered, she is quoted as saying to the Sheriff's Office investigator, quote, "Thank God he was still asleep," meaning the 2-year-old. The information that she stated in her video about the 2-year-old has never been disclosed to the Sheriff's Office. In the mother's video, she states there was mud in the backyard, even refers to it as swampy. And she noted that there was no dirt on the 12-year-old's feet. Images from the day of the incident on April the 14th show that the grass was not wet and the yard was not swampy. There have been many statements on this website regarding the alleged staging of the scene. The photo of the backyard displayed on the social media site shows a swing set and a chair. It's important to note that the swings that are wrapped over the top post of the swing set and the chair were moved by York County Fire and Life Safety personnel in order to create enough space to render life-saving measures. The chair was moved from its original location under the swing by Fire and Life Safety personnel where the 12-year-old was hanging, to the front of the swing set, and the swings were moved to provide workspace. Our investigation determined that the chair was originally located on the deck at the rear of the home and was moved to the swing set area. Also during the course of our investigation, DNA samples were collected from the cord that the 12-year-old was found suspended from. This cord was not a shoestring. It came from a motorcycle helmet bag that belonged to the stepfather that had been previously located in the garage. The 12-year-old's DNA was the only DNA found on this cord. Specifically, the DNA swabs were taken from the knot placed in that cord, and the only DNA on that knot belonged to the 12-year-old. In the video, there's an allegation that members of the YPSO, the York Poquoson Sheriff's Office, washed blood from the 12-year-old. At no point did any member of the Sheriff's Office clean or remove any blood from the scene or the child. At the hospital, investigators placed bags over the 12-year-old's hands prior to him being transported to the medical examiner's office. This is common practice to prevent the loss of any potential trace evidence. Based on the fact that the family was telling us that neighbors had information that they were providing to the family about possible suspects, our investigators went back to interview those neighbors, and none provided any additional information or new investigative leads. There is a statement in the mother's video about the unusual location of the 12-year-old's underwear. The clothing that the 12-year-old was wearing when he was located that day belonged to his stepfather, to include the stepfather's shirt, pants, belt, and stepfather's underwear. The 12-year-old's underwear were found in the same room where his stepfather's clothes were kept. In the video, the mother states that someone from the York Poquoson Sheriff's Office sent her a text that stated, quote, "Time to move on." To our knowledge, that statement was never made. We have done some research and have not been able to locate a text message telling the family to move on. The only text similar to this was a text between the investigator and the mother, where the mother states to the investigator, quote, "It is time to heal."
But in my opinion, the sheriffs did not do a good job explaining how, focusing on the victim here. All I heard the whole time was I, us, me, we have so much experience, we can't make mistakes. Like, that's what I hear when they're talking, based on the body language, based on everything. They essentially were like, how dare the parents? We have decades worth of experience here in our officers, and we've done every type of high profile case ever, period. And it was all ego. It was just ego, and completely missing and forgetting the point that there was a 12-year-old boy here that was a victim, okay? Let's just pretend we're one of the sheriffs and we think that he did it himself. Why is there not still an investigation to find out why? Why was there not more looking into that? Why did you not look into if there was actually any bullying? Because they didn't look into nothing. So when the parents started talking to neighbors, okay, and there's one other weird piece of evidence here, they found out that the sheriffs weren't even interrogating, talking to people, interviewing people. They didn't talk to anybody at the school when they said he was bullied. They didn't talk to neighbors. Nothing. Literally nothing. They didn't do anything.
That just signals to me either complete incompetence. Just complete incompetence. Because there's absolutely no way in my mind that I think it is possible for anybody to get themselves in a position like that. Mm-hmm. Period. Not even just a kid, an adult. I don't think you could do that all yourself.
Yeah.
For one. So, complete incompetence, which I think is giving them too much of leeway. I don't know. That just feels yucky, because I feel like there's not an adult out there who could look at that and think, oh yeah, like they totally did that to themselves. So then my mind goes to inside job.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious what you guys think.
That's just me. That's totally just me speculating, but I want to know if there's other factors I'm not considering that would make somebody else think something else.
I never go to conspiracy first. It's just never a conspiracy in most situations. I don't think it's a conspiracy. I think that based on everything I'm seeing in the ego, where my question marks are at is, did something get done wrong from the police or the medical examiner or whatever in the process of managing the evidence in the crime scene that created the human condition that we see all the time? And now, instead of admitting they did something wrong, they're like,
covering their tracks.
This is what it is.
Yeah.
This is what it is, okay? Because I'm telling you, 9 times out of 10 in a lot of cases, you guys, it is the human condition. We have a very hard time, all of us, all humans, have a very hard time admitting we're wrong or admitting we made a mistake. It's much easier to hush it under the rug, sweep it under the rug. So that's what I'm wondering is, was something messed up where they don't have the right information, the right tracking, the right whatever, and then the parents started coming hard with all this evidence they have, and they just, it's blue blood, and they tighten up. I don't know. I'm curious what you guys think.
I see what you're saying.
know.
But also it makes me wonder, like, everything you said that they found in the house, with him being in the dad's clothes and everything gone through, and his underwear and his glasses and like the bag, and that almost seems like somebody who enjoyed doing it to me. Like, so then I think, well, then that probably isn't an inside job. So what actually happened here? Do we have a serial killer on the loose? Do we have, like, somebody who's super, super dangerous out there who's willing to, like, go break into a home with a kid and do something like that? Because it's all very confusing evidence, too.
Yeah. Did they see opportunity, too? Like, okay, so that first person was a landscaper that was part of a team, and this is the other piece of evidence. There's actually 2 pieces. This is the other one I was talking about, though, where there were cameras up around their neighborhood, like any neighborhood, and their neighbor, for whatever reason, this is really strange, sent in a picture to the police and to the family of a still shot of the video of the landscaper's truck. What's weird, you guys, is they refuse to share the full video, which is so strange.
Why share any at all then?
I don't know. That, for me, that brings up red flags, but so does the eyewitness that heard the scream and saw the school, the setup on the swing set or whatever.
So if there were landscapers out there and they saw the parents leave.
Exactly.
And they didn't interrogate the landscaper? Like, did they ever even consider him a suspect? Of course not, because they considered it a self-deletion. So.
I'm curious what you guys think with this. Do you think it could have been the landscapers? Do you think it could have been a neighbor? Like, there's so many working parts and possibilities here. I think it could go either way, and I'm not sure what I believe in this situation. I'm more curious what you guys think to help me understand what's going on here, and make sure you go to that change.org /what happened to Sean. But the one other thing is, remember, and I wonder if Maria stopped this. And if there was someone in there, let's just pretend it's a landscaper. If there was someone in there, they ran away out the front or out the back and started doing the mowing again, okay? Because there were 2 bags, you guys. There were 2 kids. When the mom got there, because the sister called and was like, the mom got there within like 10, 15 minutes. The mom was like, oh, it dawned on her after, with the anxiety, where's my other son? And she runs inside, and he is asleep under a pile of clothes. All she saw were his little feet hanging out the bottom of these clothes. When she scooped him up, he was like, he started crying like crazy right away. And she said that he was more limp. You know what I mean? When a child sleeps and you pick them up at 2 years old, like, they'll startle and tighten themselves up.
She was limp?
Said, yeah, weirdly limp. Like, I don't know, lack of oxygen, knockout type situation. I don't know. Did something get interrupted and it was going to be 2 boys?
Oh my God.
Yeah. Because remember, there was only one bag.
The scream could have startled the person, and then they ran out.
There was only one bag ripped up, not the other one.
Right.
It's scary. This is a scary situation. This is a scary situation that we have law enforcement that can look at so much evidence here and due to maybe they had a mistake and they're just too scared to admit it. Maybe it's all ego, and they refuse to admit that the parents could find evidence that they chose to not go digging for in this situation. Do conspiracies happen? Yes, they do. But most of the time, it is not conspiracy. It is the human condition that somebody can't admit fault, somebody can't admit blame, something or another. All I know is I hope the FBI hop on this. I hope they get 50,000 plus signatures for this. I want you guys to go out there, a call to action, get on this website, read into it, check it out, figure out what you believe for yourself, and share it with us, what you think, what could have caused this.
Yeah,
It's
looking
so
at the
sad.
pictures of the family, like, I just feel so bad.
He looks like such a good kid.
He does. And
so sad.
I mean, I feel really bad for the family,
Awful.
How traumatic.
And I don't know what this is. This is completely unsolved, and I don't know what direction.
And this happened last year, right?
I'm curious what you guys think.
It happened 2022.
Yeah. Like, I want to know what you guys think.
Yeah.
Yeah, April 14th of 2022.
Oh, yeah. I see the motorcycle bag.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Yep. So.
Yeah. This is wild.
I know. So.
Yep. I hope the family's doing
justice
okay.
for Sean Daugherty.
Yes, absolutely. He was done dirty.